Welcome back everyone to Jurassic Park's 1998. In case you're new to the series, this is my main series in Jurassic World Evolution 3, and we are building a 1990s inspired Main Street-ish vibe. Yeah, Jurassic Park I should say, the idea of a mainland. And today we are building the Main Street. Maybe you've seen yesterday's episode. That was a little bit of a future episode where we built a Velociraptor movie-inspired habitat that is somewhere else in the park. And today we are focusing back on the Main Street. This is going to be a massive episode because I've got footage worth of 8 hours or so that went into the build. You can see a bit of a backstage area in the background. That's gonna be, that's gonna be something for the future. We're not going to tackling upon that one today. Maybe kind of fun before we talk about the architecture, because you guys have been commenting quite a lot on the first episode if the architecture isn't more like 80s style, I'll get to that in a minute, there is a real reason behind the choice of architecture I went for, especially for the Main Street, and I'll give you a bit of an example what you can expect from this series, because there's a lot more to come, and I'm really, really frankly excited to share that all with you, and hopefully the algorithm will make it pop up in more and more feeds, because the first days have been a little bit underwhelming to say the least. Not sure what exactly was going on YouTube. Maybe just way too much content at once. I don't know. You'll never find out what YouTube decides to do. But I'm still very proud of the process. I'm very proud of this project. It's been a lot of fun, which is the most important thing. And I may mention that this specific build today is meant to be the Main Street in order to get a central point from where the entire project is going to be developing. So as promised, we're going to talk about that in a second, but just to mention quickly, in case you haven't yet gotten the game, there is going to be a link in the description that is a dedicated Frontier link, affiliate link. They finally managed to do that, so you can buy the game via this link if you want to. You do help me directly because I'll get a bit of a kickback from that and you get the game, so it's basically a win-win. Just to mention that I'm very proud that Frontier finally pulled that off after, I don't know, 8 years where we've been telling them that this would be a great little thing for creators. Anyways, today's episode is going to be all around this Main Street, and what I was going to say is that unfortunately I don't really build streamlined, so I'm a little bit building funky like the music in the background. So when I was building this project in the early access the last couple of weeks, it's been very hard for me to stay at one thing, because there were so many possibilities at hand that I just wanted to try out things. So you will also see in the real-time part that you'll see already a couple of other things from future episodes. I just can't get away with that because I jumped from one area to the other whenever I had an idea to just lay out the entire thing. And you'll see that hopefully on Friday there's going to be the huge tutorial ready for you. I'm going to make a master tutorial just as I've done for all the other games with everything in, and this is why I wanted to test out virtually anything in the game. And I think this is actually worth it when you do that at the beginning, but it can turn out to be a bit boring for you to watch when I'm jumping from A to B. So what I did instead is I kind of took all the footage that belongs to the Main Street, which was kind of 3 or 4 takes in a way, if you will, because 3 or 4 times I jumped back to the Main Street whenever I had an idea. So yeah, it's been, as I said, like footage from about 8 to 9 hours, let alone, which is kind of crazy. I didn't really notice. It just was a lot of fun doing this. So yeah, that's sad why it's a bit of a jump forth and back. And yesterday's Velociraptor habitat was just like, I just wanted to get it out to you guys, to the world, because I'm just so proud of it. In case you haven't seen that one, this is a full build of the kitchen scene of Jurassic Park, the first movie, I should say. And this one, I think, turned out incredible. Like, we make great use of the new global illumination and ray tracing, especially in an indoor scene like that. You can really see the power of this. But yeah, again, I'm super proud, and if I don't forget, I'll put a little teaser in here right now so you can have a look at this. While I was saying this, let's talk about the architecture, shall we? Because the Main Street is composed out of a couple of buildings from like Miami and other kind of 90s inspired stuff. I have researched a lot of pictures and input from like Pinterest, Google Images, and all that kind of typical kind of sauce where you go into, architecture. But I also took inspiration from a certain GTA Vice City. And for those of you who know the game, this is obviously more 80s. Now, there is a bit of an issue. When we go and say this is the Jurassic Park 1998, it opened in 1998, which means that obviously the building process has been started way earlier, and you take obviously a lot of things that are typically from this period. So even though we say 90s inspired, there is a lot of architectural influence from the 80s apparently, because that's where you just build upon, the 90s develop over the 90s, which makes sense that you still have a couple of influence from the 80s, and some of the things you would take over. And I've read some very cool comments about Taco Bell design of this time of period, which has been an influence, you guessed that. But there's going to be a lot more 90s inspired stuff in the coming episodes. But I wanted to get the Main Street in because the Main Street potentially is the first thing you build. That the Main Street may be the main thing that you want to have ready at the beginning, which is the reason why it may have the most influence from the 80s too. So that is definitely the case. However, what you can already tell from the Main Street is that color-wise, I'm trying to lean more into the 90s already. I wished to have had the chance to have transparent glass, which is another little thing I needed to do a bit of a... Yeah, it's kind of a compromise I needed to do here. I wanted to do a lot more with like translucent glass, because the 90s are like very much also about like glass kind of influence to build, and specifically transparent stuff. Remember all the tech stuff in the 90s. Everything needed to be transparent to you so you can see the inside. And I wanted to, take some inspiration from that as well, which also is an influence in architecture. But as we don't have transparent glass, other than some 2 or 3 awnings have transparent glass, but I'm not sure if Frontier still has an issue with the shader regarding the full ray tracing we have right now in the game. May be the reason, but they also didn't have full glass in the release version of Planet Coaster 2, so maybe that's something we'll get with an early free update. I think I also never talked about that, but a nice little gimmick, it's not even a gimmick, it's actually hot news and great stuff, is that Frontier is going to bring back all base game dinosaurs that are missing from Jurassic World Evolution 2 to the game in the upcoming free updates, which is amazing because that means we will get free updates not only with dinosaurs but also with other content too. So hopefully we'll see some of this stuff happening as well. So yeah, as you can see, I just went back for the backstage area here and there, like a little bit of footage I left in because that was part of the Main Street build, more or less, because I needed to tidy up that corner over here. I wanted to have a main access to the backstage area from the Main Street, which kind of makes sense. And I also thought a lot about the ideal design of the Main Street, which is, in terms of theme parks, it's a very different approach. It's not like that typical kind of, you either go with a T shape or a V shape or like a roundish shape. I did neither of those, just to kind of, explain that a little bit. You can go with a T shape, which is technically you come into the park and you have like a long corridor going forward, and on top of that corridor you have the same size going to the left and right, opening up into the park, which is typically kind of a movie world, Six Flags kind of approach. And then you do also have the kind of V shape approach, which is, although the T shape is kind of Disney style as well, even though it's not a T, it's kind of more like a roundish top bit stuff there on top of the Main Street. But you can also have like a V shape with like a Main Street that is opening up ever so much more towards the middle of your park and having some kind of centerpiece there. And the round shape, like the half moon kind of shape, is when you like opening up in the park and have like a round shape, most likely hugging a lake or something like this, which is a very typical approach on these type of parks. But neither of those I thought fitted the idea, because I wanted to go for this kind of Miami vibe. And so I went for the idea that we have maybe a Main Street that is leaned towards a lakeside, and the lakeside becomes part of the entire scene as well. You'll see in the next episodes, and also in the real-time part, frankly, there's going to be a bit of fun little things implemented in that. And I also think that we will have a lot of interesting ground to talk about during the creation of all of that, because I want to borrow a lot of ideas from the 90s, what people are doing and what kind of the behaviors were. And, you know, this park also needs to think about how to make money. So Main Streets quite often also offer the opportunity to have like business meetings and, you know, kind of parties, and you can rent these things mostly after the opening hours or maybe in winter times or whatnot. So I'm thinking about this more like a theme park or a zoo, you know, even though zoos, well, they still do have closures during winter or weather-related closures, but still you can have some business stuff to make money out of these off times, you know. And this is also why I wanted to make the Main Street really get into that as well. So yeah, that's kind of another idea. You see, there's a lot of thought that went into the process of building that. You'll see we have a lot of backstage connected to the Main Street. So in order to have the ability to deliver a lot of goods into these things, I also envision that in this tower over here we are building right now, technically there could be a lot of cool meeting rooms in there as well. I mean, you know, imagine having like a pitch meeting, you know, where you pitch for a client or so, and I don't know, you rent out a meeting room in a Jurassic Park. Like, how cool would that be, you know? Maybe from the other side there's like a viewing platform where you can then overlook some of the habitats. How cool would that be, you know, for a pitch meeting? So yeah, as you can see, also obviously put some storefronts in. All these gates and openings were measured before so that I could ensure that there is no collision enabled and people would move exactly into the houses. I also borrowed like a little trick that I didn't connect the doors directly to the doors of the boxes. You know, when you now do custom designs in Jurassic World Evolution 3, you can have these boxes you can see down there in these buildings, which is essentially the facility, the functioning facility where people enter in order to buy anything. But like, as they're ugly and they go into like a kind of black void, I wanted to not have that and wanted to make sure that when they go into something, it looks almost like they go into a shop or something like that. I love these shop front pieces we have, where we can have these kind of 3D-ish kind of panels that they show some kind of interior. I wish they would enlarge the choice of those. I mean, they have already quite some, I think 20 or 15 to 20 different facades, which is cool, you know. I'm not going to complain too much. It's super cool. But at the end of the day, I also think, like, you know, more variety would have been nice, because these 15 are kind of a trick, because they're always in pairs of 3 to 4. So in total, you only have like 4 different types of shops that you can showcase with those. And as we don't have any transparent glass, we can't really do them ourselves, which you technically could. Like, because of scaling, you can get rather small with pieces, which you've seen in yesterday's Jurassic Park build, obviously. So yeah, that has been something I'm super proud of, and that I can build this. But unfortunately, without functioning transparent glass, that's been a little bit of a rough one. One thing you see me doing all the time in the build, by the way, and this is a big trick for you guys in case you're not familiar with the Planet games, having windows sunken into a little mold is making your buildings stand out so much more. So whenever you put like windows in, don't just slap them onto the wall. Make sure to create like a little mold where you can sink them in, to have them either completely seamless with the wall or just like have a tiny little bump to make them just not pop out too much from the building. It's something that real houses would never have. You know, a window is not plopped onto a wall. It's inside a wall. It's part of the wall. So that is why I also always try to do that, except the cases with the shop fronts over here, because I did some, you know, columns and stuff around that anyway, so it's kind of hidden anyway, so you don't need to try to merge that into something. Yeah, using some tents over here for some different type of awnings. I am relatively happy with it, and just trying to go for different kind of color scopes here and there. And in general, it's been mega fun to build this, and I just couldn't help myself but just to go on building. It's been so much fun to build these Main Street houses, to learn about the pieces and to just try out different styles and tricks and whatever you can do with these pieces, how they work together, which type of signage you can use. And it's just been very fun, and also started to kind of name some of these things. So we have some dryo drinks over here. I found this kind of little pun in here, kind of nice. I do hope you still get some liquid drinks at the end of the day, though. But yeah, also matching colors. As I said, we're getting a bit more 90s inspired colors rather than only 80s. But you know, at the end of the day, I somehow figured after almost 15 hours. Building in the game, I've not placed down a single dinosaur or released a single dinosaur into a real habitat. I did in this project to have some guests coming in, but not in a real habitat. And I thought we shall use the power of the brand new game and create a completely different habitat to anything we've been able to be doing beforehand. So what I did is, while I do test here some foliage, I was just checking which kind of trees these were to be able to mention them later. Again, I got distracted all the time because so many ideas. I made this little low fence you already have downloaded potentially, because I saw that one has already quite some thousands of downloads, which is kind of cool to see. Some of my blueprints you guys seem to really like a lot, so thank you for all the downloads. Hopefully you enjoy them. I'll keep them coming. There's a lot more coming. But it's a super simple habitat at the end of the day. A super small one too. And because you've seen the Dryosaurus or Dryo drink off here, it just makes sense that we have the Dryosaurus in here as well. I tried to have some different type of animals in, but I had a hard time measuring exactly what kind of size would work realistically in here for them to also technically not break out, you know. And at some point I also needed to hide a gate in here to make this habitat really functioning, because the gate essentially is that what the teams will use to get in here. And also it helps you to create some custom gates, because that's the only chance to have your dinosaurs not escape, other than, you know, yeah, technically I have to have a gate there, but I needed something low, so I went for the kind of biosin invisible stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of these things, simply because that's kind of unrealistic. I mean, it's just like an implied energy field, but hey, I'm just making best use of it. And here you can see me finally going for some dinosaurs that will make its way into the habitat. But we'll see about that in a second, because we will now jump into the real-time part. Can't wait to see you there. Here we are in the real-time part, and you can see there is the finished Main Street. I am in a rather further into the project file, and I've deleted quite a couple of things, so I'm not spoiling too much. So we can see the habitat in front here. I changed a couple of things in order to contain the animals. We have got some Dryosaurs in here, but we also have some Psittacosaurus in there, because they are very nicely contained, so there are no issues with those. But the Dryosaurs, they keep escaping. There's not really that much I can do about this. I think they don't really fit in here, so maybe I'll have them in some other habitats. But I did find a solution in order to make this even nicer. So we don't have real glass, as I was saying, but what we do have is the ability to be more creative, and so I lowered down some of the pieces here in order to create these kind of viewing areas. You know, you have to be rather big to just watch over the fence. You can, though, if you're like from this position, you know, you can see some of the heads of the Dryosaurus. You can easily see them, but you can also easily watch through them. And, you know, from sitting here and some of the chairs on the main street, you still can see some of the dinosaurs nonetheless. I want to also make some raised little viewing areas, you know, with the benches and so on. We can easily fake this, because people will spawn on them eventually. They don't sit down. But you can see with all the amenities, these areas become relatively nicely filled. The more dinosaurs you have, the higher the appeal of your park is. You can see people sitting down, and yeah, the main street itself just looks fantastic. I have also done a lot of work with some decals and stuff, so I made these houses look a bit more weathered. As you can see, again, my storyline is that this potentially has been the first thing being built, so also why the reference to the architecture is more lean toward the beginning of the 90s and 80s, and so that is the reason why. I'm just in love with that one, like the Jurassic drinks, and you've got that little leaning sign, a bit of a rust everywhere here from the house coming. You've got the shop in front, some of the shop fronts down there, and the same goes about the house here on the other side. The shrimp smoothies. You know, I thought like a shrimp looks like a fossil. That's like the story behind. It's not like really fancy story, but you know, it's something. You know, you see the people talking over here. There's a bit of, you know, I mentioned this dude over here looks a bit like me, like hairstyle like me. Yeah, face like me, size of the nose like me. That's it. That's just me. That's me. That's totally me. Okay, anyways, you can see this is the area over here. There's like a fence. I'm not even sure why the gate opens, to be honest. Not really the idea why. Is it because I'm flying close to that one? Can we just get in? Or why is this? Or excuse me, what the heck are you even doing here? Did I tell you to do anything? But yeah, so this is the idea why it's next to the main street. You can see that little plant area I did earlier. We are missing out on some of the fence. I think I did delete this on... Not on purpose. It's just gone. I don't know why. But there's like a little fence usually around here. But to be honest, it just kind of looks nice without a fence, with all the grass growing on top of it. It's just that gate opening and closing the whole time. Yeah, we also have that kind of nice little corner over here where people can sit. I'll put some more vending machines in eventually. I will create some different fronts, because like it's a bit of a, this is like a typical frontier kind of thing, you know. If it's so odd. They give us a prop of a vending machine and they literally give us one single variant, you know. Whoops. So like if we place that down here, you can see I'm just gonna place that in here now, and we can't even, like, you did the different kind of shop fronts, you know, where we can change the shop fronts and stuff like that. But with this thing, we just can't do anything. Hold on, why am I not clicking on this thing? There you can see. Collision off, okay, fine. But chill, okay. I don't want to chill. Like, why the heck is this not something else? I mean, you know, now we have to get in and just kind of make this nice. You could just kind of type in sign. Do we find any sign? Yeah. So we could obviously go in and create something like this, you know, and then just like try to kind of create something with these things, even though that one is too big. I would need something smaller, kind of. I don't know what, oh my god, that's not small. Any one of you, is there like a, from the form factor, we could use that one. That one could work just fine. Hold on. There you go. That also looked like a bit of fuzz, almost like. So what we could do here is just like move that to the side, move that up. So yeah, I think we even need to make that smaller in order to not get into issues with the lower, how's that area called? The pull-out area? I don't know. So just move that a little bit higher up here, and then we can just bump the whole thing up if that just makes sense. Just like, I'm just going to showcase. I'm not going to do this, no worries. You don't need to see me building this all the time, but just like something like that, you know, just hiding away behind that thing, just filling in the raw, the whole bit, you know, something like this. And then I think what I would do, I'm just going to see if there's like plastic. No, plastic is not in there. But concrete has some cool stuff I could use. I do know some pieces in here would work just fine. So like these round pieces, but I was looking for, actually, you know what, I think this piece would be very fine indeed. So if we make that small enough. Okay, well, actually it's not small enough. I thought I could scale that smaller than this, because that has the exact kind of shape I want to, but I think this thing over here is smaller, so I could make that one smaller and make that fit in. Yeah, something like that. I mean, people do not interact with this thing anyways, but we could create some different fronts for these ones. I'm just like super annoyed that Frontier just didn't give us those. Another little issue we have is that this habitat in the middle, and I do hope that Frontier is kind of changing this. Oh my god, see, there's one of the Dryosaurus. And just escape, and like how literally the people sitting here like, oh yeah, well, it's fine that like a humongous chicken egg is running around with us. Again, I'll not have the Dryosaurus in here, despite the fact that this is the dryer drinks, but it could also refer here to the animal encounter, because that works with the Dryosaurus as well. It's a bit of a shame, and I'm not entirely sure how to contain them, but we may actually get some other small animals in here. Even though, hold on, I'm not even sure if, oh wait, is that animal just, did this animal just go back in? I thought it is. We have some Dimetrodons here on the beach. Yeah, like the thing is, they just escape from that habitat all the time. I'm not sure, these two walls don't really do the job as they should, but hey, whatever. I think the Dryosaurus just just jumped back into the habitat. I'm not entirely sure what exactly happened. Now, there's not really that much more to talk about, other than that we have all the amenities in the beginning here done. Again, the backstage area will receive a bit of a glow up in a future episode. I deleted some stuff here too. This is where the Velociraptor habitat is going to sit. I mean, you've seen the episode already. Potentially you have. If not, make sure to watch it. But it's like somewhere out there, so this was a bit of a safe one to build. And then this is where we have our monorail. I saw also Evolution Square upload a video about how to completely submerge things in with the little trick, you know, of moving the station along. But I'm not entirely sure if I even need this. You know, the trick functions the way it is, and I'm kind of happy with the foliage that it does hide all the thing I did. So it's like if I continue building a bit of a background here, I think there's not really that much of a need to do that. But yeah, so for the next episode, you guys can be looking forward to the animal encounter, which is the next thing I'm going to do. And then after that, the Dimetrodon Beach, or other way around. I'm not entirely sure how exactly I'm going to do this. Again, as I said, because I did not build chronologically, which now turns out to be a bit of an issue. But whatever. Okay, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that one. So, in case you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel to be able to be notified whenever there's a new video coming of this project. There is a lot coming, and I can only tell you there's even more great stuff coming. Maybe tomorrow there's also another video coming, which is not this project, because I've done even more. Yeah, let yourself be entertained. There's a lot coming. Hopefully you guys enjoy. If so, make sure to check out. The link is also in the descriptions, and also make sure to support the channel if you haven't already. I'm loving to have you here in the next episode. Until then, have a good time and goodbye.